Hello, all you nice people. Thank you for showing up. We are meeting now at the end of the year. We have a big year behind us, stepping into a bigger one. And for a lot of us, this year has been a rough year. Coronavirus, economics, politics, racial tensions. It's been a very intense year for a lot of people. What I'd like to do with you today is to find a healthy way to use what's happened in the year that's passed to sift out what you'd like to leave behind and to get real clear and focused on what you'd like to take into the new year. Longfellow said, "Great is the art of beginning, but even greater is the art of ending." So it's really easy to start stuff like relationships, but it's harder to end them. And in the ending, there's an art. There's an invitation to mastery. There's a call for healing. So this is why I really like that the last week of the year for most people there's no work. And if you use it wisely, you can go in and do your spiritual healing work that will cleanse what you don't want to take with you and open the door to what you do want to take with you. So what we want to do is really end the year well. No matter what's happened during the year, if we end the year well, it's a success. Shakespeare said, "All's well that ends well." And it's really true because, whatever it takes to get there is good because you got there. And even the negatives can be parlayed into something wonderful. You've heard me say that every minus is half of a plus, waiting for a stroke of vertical awareness. So let's turn this year into a plus, shall we? What I like to do at the end of every year is to take what I call a spiritual inventory. And there are 3 questions I ask. And I've heard this said that these are good questions to ask at the end of your life if you want to take stock of your life. But we can do it in each year. Each year is like a mini life. And the 3 questions are, what did I learn? Who did I help? Or how did I help? And what am I grateful for? Wow. What did I learn? How did I help? What am I grateful for? In fact, in many ways, that last question is the most important one. Because when we drop into a state of sincere gratitude, our heart opens and we get reconnected with Source. And Abraham Hicks says that gratitude is a state of mind closest to God, closest to heaven. Because when we're grateful, we step into a frequency where we start to see things clearly as love created them, not as fear created them. So it's really a good idea at the end of the year to take what I would call a cleanse, like a purge. And I like to go through my stuff. Let's say my books. You might want to do this too. And you say, okay, you look at all the books on your shelf and you ask yourself, which ones do I really want to bring into New Year with me? Meaning, which vibration is a match to who I am and who I want to become? And so sometimes I find books on my shelf that I read years ago, and they were good and helpful, but I'm not really totally aligned with that belief system now. So I can release it, give it away to somebody else who can use that book who's aligned with the belief system. Or you go through your clothes. Someone said, if you haven't worn a garment in the last year, get rid of it, because you're probably not going to wear it in the next year. And of course, there's somebody else who would like to wear it, perhaps. You can also do a cleanse or a purge on your relationships. That's a good one, isn't it? And you think about, okay, which of my relationships are really valuable and empowering and heart-opening and spiritually nourishing to me? And I want to keep those. Those are the ones I want to take into next year. There are certain relationships that are kind of downers to me. Maybe they're people I used to know years ago, but they're kind of negative now, and I don't feel like going there with them. or they're busy worrying about stuff and it's not a fun topic for me. Or maybe we shared interests a while back, but we don't now. And so a lot of people hang on to old relationships because of guilt. They don't know how to say no, or this person did something nice for you many years ago and you feel like you owe them. That's all fine. But all relationships exist on vibrational matching. It's like Velcro. And if you really belong together, there's a good reason for you to be together. And if not, it just means that your Velcro doesn't match anymore. But there are other people that person would like to be with who would like to be with them too. So by you releasing that relationship, you release that person to find their right connections, and you open the door to find your right connections. You've heard that the universe abhors a vacuum, which means that when you create a space, something new can come into it. So if your life is filled with books and clothes and activities and relationships that are filling up your disk, so to speak, your hard drive, then you can't add anything new. You can't have a transformation. But if you free up some of the space on the disk, then new people and new activities can come. It doesn't mean you have to make the other people wrong or have a fight with them or say goodbye to them or blow them off in any way. It just means that you say, well, this year I'll choose to be with people that I really, 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 really enjoy being with. And I will love and bless everyone, but I will make my relationship time count. All of my relationship time is precious. And so the real thing we want to shed is not just stuff like books and clothes and relationships, but patterns of thought that don't serve us. If you're going to leave anything behind in the old year, let it be fear-based thoughts, emptiness-based thoughts, lack of self-worth-based thoughts. I mean, this is the real reason to do a cleanse at the end of the year. Because, Course in Miracles says, what's going on out there is really just a projection of what's going on in here. So it's for you to manipulate stuff out there is good, but to manipulate stuff in here is even better because this is the source of all of your experience. So, take a moment to think about what patterns of thought and feeling have not served you during the last year. Well, I've been afraid about this. I've been guilty about that. I'm still beating myself up over that conversation. I still wonder if I should have left my marriage. I still make my ex-husband or wife wrong. Those are the thoughts you want to purge because every one of those thoughts kind of sucks life force from you. And we've said time after time after time that there's really only two thought systems, fear and love. And at every given moment, you are feeding one or the other. Every time you indulge in a fear thought, you make the world of fear more real in your experience. Every time you indulge in a love thought or a trust thought or a self-confidence thought or a vision thought, then you are making that more real. Next week, we're going to go into how to build a vision for the next year. But this week, I want to help you cleanse and clear so you're free to enter the new year open and cleansed. When you go to an optometrist, they will put this machine in front of your eyes with different lenses. And they'll give you a choice between two lenses and they'll ask you which one is clear. Number one, number two, number one, number two. And you tell them which one's clear, and that's how they make your prescription. Well, life is about two different lenses. One is a lens of love, and one is a lens of fear. One is a lens of trust, one is a lens of mistrust. One is a lens of separation and alienation and loneliness, and the other one is a lens of connection. So really, our only spiritual work, you may think you have to go out and save people or educate people. That's all fine. Do what you need to do. But our real spiritual work is to keep coming back to that lens of love. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we could, end this year on a note of love? And I look back on this year, there's so many things I'm grateful for. A lot of you are aware that we did my daily dose of sanity in April and May, a lesson every day. And it was a spontaneous thing for me. I realized that people were going to be cooped up for lockdowns for a month or two. So I just got on the web and I did our YouTube for 15 minutes a day for April and May, and then it went on to once a week. And that was the most exciting time of the year for me. That was real fulfilling. It was a bit of a challenge. I had to be disciplined and how to work with the technology and all that stuff. But when I look back on this year, I thought that was a really good time for me. And I got a lot of really great feedback. A lot of you said, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, even though the year has been a dark one for many, there were so many moments of light that made it worthwhile. I told you about the man who was walking through a city in Australia, and he saw a lot of people lined up waiting for public assistance. And he went to his bank and took out $10,000 in cash and gave each person in line $100. Not that you have to give away money necessarily, but the darker it gets, the brighter the light has to come up to meet it and overpower it. So take a moment to think now about, what were the bright moments in this year for me? Well, I connected with people more, even on Zoom. Wow, Zoom turned out to be a viable medium for soul connection. I never thought that would happen, but it did. And I started to really appreciate my family now. I spent more quality time with my family than I have in many years. And I looked within. I did my prayer work, and I did more yoga. I did more meditation. I did more reading. And somehow, even in the midst of weird things going on all around me, I found a place inside me that was brighter and more powerful than the images the news was showing me. Wow, so I think it was Camus who said, in the midst of winter, I found within me an invincible summer. Wow. And so some people consider the pandemic a winter. It's kind of like a global winter. But a lot of people are finding within them invincible summers, that there's something inside you that's far bigger, greater than what's happening in the outer world. And the ego wants us to think that we're not getting anywhere. That's the big trick of the ego. The ego is always based on gap and emptiness, and this is not it. And I want to suggest to you that you may have grown tremendously during the past year, even if you don't think you have. The idea of I'm the same person I was, and my core issues are still bugging me, and I still have that fear, and my relationships still suck, and that's all ego. It's just going booga booga, trying to scare you into thinking that you're stuck and you're screwed up and you're inadequate. You're never going to change, and that you're doomed to be the same awful person you're afraid you are. And that is such a crock, because no matter what's happening on the outside, we're growing on the inside. We had a lot of bamboo trees on our property. What I learned about bamboo is that it grows like crazy during the spring and summer. And we've seen it. I actually watch it grow. We plant these little bamboos, and next day they're an inch higher, and they just grow like Jack and the Beanstalk. But what happens in the winter is their roots grow. They're not growing on the outside, but they're growing on the inside, and they're sending deeper and deeper and deeper roots into the earth. So it's becoming stronger in its ability to grow during the summer. So when it seems like nothing's happening on the outside, it's just dead, it's just winter, you can be sure something is happening that's developing you in the inner life. And we've said so many times that it's really on the inner life that matters. You can have a very successful outer life, but if your inner life is empty, so what? What good is it? But you can have a sense of wholeness and joy and creativity and vision and willingness. And if you have a rich inner life, you're sending roots to the deepest source within you, down to the pure aquifer of God essence. And then when the time is right, You will draw from that deeper place. And what happens in the outer world will be so much more powerful than if you didn't have that time to go deep within. So you mark my words, when we come out on the other side of this pandemic, and we will, some people already are, some countries already are, the spiritual growth that we will have gained from it will rocket our individual lives and our planetary lives to a whole new level. Don't be fooled by current appearances. That's just spiritual nearsightedness. We want to open up our higher eye and see that there's a big picture that far supersedes what seems to be happening in that little pinprick hole that nearsightedness shows us. So whatever has happened in the last year, for better or worse, I promise you that some things have been developing on the inside that are holy, that are bringing you closer to peace, closer to God, closer to living your life in a way that far more matches who you really are, what you really want to do, than the way you were living. This pandemic has been a cleansing, a global cleansing, especially for those who are willing to latch onto it and make it work in their favor. And the only real way you make anything work in your favor is to grow spiritually. If you have come even an iota closer to spiritual peace, then you got it. Then you're there. So let's take a moment just to close with a prayer, shall we? Great Spirit, God, by any name we know you. We are grateful for the lessons and opportunities this past year has shown us, individually and collectively. We've had so many opportunities to choose love, so many moments where we can say, I really want to feel peaceful instead of afraid. Thank you for those opportunities to choose what really matters to us. And our prayer now is to leave behind everything that no longer serves us spiritually. Help us, Great Spirit, Holy Spirit, to leave behind the fears, the guilts, the lonelinesses, the alienations, the upset. All that stuff does not befit us or honor us as spiritual beings. We are children of God. We are created in the image of the Most High God. Everything about God is true about us. We are divine. We are loving. We are whole. We are healthy. We are pure. We are at peace. This is our true nature. And so our deep prayer is that everything that no longer matches our spiritual heritage just be left behind, just like a snake crawls out of its old skin. It doesn't have to be retching, it doesn't have to be painful. Okay, it doesn't serve me anymore. Out I go. I leave the old skin behind, and I will grow a new skin that matches who I've become and who I will be, rather than who I was. Thank you for all of our meetings this year. I so appreciate everyone who has shown up to the live broadcast or watched the recording. I so appreciate all the lovely comments. And my prayer is that as we move into the new year, doors open and relationships open and prosperity opens and physical healing opens and cultural healing opens, and that there comes a shift, a divine turning point, a tipping point, where love becomes our abiding reality, where we choose to live in the consciousness of heaven, and all that seemed like hell no longer matches us. We want nothing to do with it. It just dissolves into the nothingness that it was. So we open our minds and hearts to a bright, new, wonderful, deeply rewarding, soul-fulfilling, ecstatically expressive year where each of us finally comes into our own as spiritual beings, children of God, And we walk as the light of the world. And this coming year is the year of light. I am the light of the world. You are the light of the world. We are the light of the world. And so we very humbly and yet powerfully say, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Great, great, great things are coming. And we are so grateful. God bless you all. Happy New Year.